Hello Brats and welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to be designing and making one of our Stick It vinyl stickers. We'll be using the Procreate app to draw the design and the Cricut design space to create a print and cut sticker sheet. We'll then go into a little bit about cold laminating and finally cutting them out with my Cricut machine. I thought it would be interesting to show you all a little bit of the design process here at HowdysDen. So here we are, right at the start of it. Everything begins with the design. For this sticker, I've decided to do a witch's finger. If you were fancy in the 80s and 90s, you'd have these as part of your bin bag and mask costume. They were almost always green, sometimes glow in the dark, with a long red pointy nail with a wart. I loved these things. They and the smell of the inside of a rubber witch's nose are core memories for me growing up in the 80s and 90s, and can instantly take me back to being a child and absolutely loving Halloween. So here I'm tidying up my line work, making sure that everything is neat and tidy. I'm keeping the design really simple. A green finger with a red pointy nail. We'll give it some shading and highlight along the way, but we really don't need to give it too much detail because it'll just complicate the design and overall take away from it. One of the things I love about the Procreate app, rather than other drawing apps, because other drawing apps are available, is you can move the paper around. On a lot of the others, it's stuck in either portrait or landscape, and you have to physically move your computer or your iPad or whatever to get into all the different little nooks and crannies. With the Procreate app, the paper moves. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can put the paper, you can turn it upside down, put it on an angle, any way you want. It's like drawing on a real piece of paper, which I really like. To create shading and highlights, I use the airbrushing tool on a separate layer, so I can then go in and use things like Gaussian blur to feather it out, to adjust the opacity of it to get it just right without disrupting the image below. Often as I'm going along, I'll tweak things like the opacity of a layer or the brightness of it to get the image looking exactly how I want it. Here I'm just using my Xerox pencil to add a little bit of a suggestion of the gnarled old look that the witch's fingers would have, because they were often modelled to look like very wizened old witch's fingers, and that line is to just give the suggestion of that. And again here on a separate layer, I'm going back in with the airbrush tool and putting some highlights on. I changed my mind about the wart at this point and thought I don't want a shadow on top of that. So I just went back onto the other layer, erased it, went back to the highlight layer and put a highlight on top of it, which I thought looked really effective, especially when it was all blurred out. Texture is really important in designs. So what we've done here is we've just gone in, used a little bit of grunge and then dialed the opacity on the layer right back so that it doesn't overwhelm it, it just gives the suggestion of texture. And here I thought the knuckles looked a bit clunky, the line was too thick, so I erased it and went back in with a thinner line, which I think worked a lot better. it's at this point that the design really comes together for me. As soon as that red nail went on, I was like, that's it. That's how I want it to look. It just needed that slight suggestion of a highlight, and that was it. It looks like a witch's finger. I don't think anyone could not look at that and not know what it's meant to be. And here I'm just going round and putting on a white border. I don't necessarily have to do this. I can put this on in the Cricut design space, but it's just something I like to do. It lets me see what the sticker's going to look like. And after a little tidy up around the edges, the design's done, so we can merge all our layers down together. And there it is. So all we need to do is save it and load it into our Cricut design space. The Cricut design space allows you to create printed cut sheets. You simply upload your design, set it to the size you want, arrange your stickers within the cuttable area, and you can print it off and use the machine to cut your stickers out. It's not perfect. The cuttable area is quite small and can create quite a fair bit of wastage, but if you arrange them carefully enough, you can get quite a few stickers out of an A4 sheet. I find it's best to have them all pointed the same way. I found if I arranged my design so some were upside down, so for example, so they sort of interlocked to get the most bang for your buck out of the paper, that the machine will get confused and then your cuts would be off. There's definitely a trick to it, but once you figure your way around the foibles, it's quite straightforward. So I've had to go upstairs to the laptop now to print out the sheet, because the iPad won't, well, it's nothing to do with the iPad really, it's Canon. Canon won't let you fiddle about with your print settings on an iPad. Sort it out, Canon. So I have to go upstairs and use my ancient laptop to print out my design, because I can twiddle about with the settings on that. And here we're just getting ready to print. I'm going to start twiddling about with my settings. As you can see, there they are. So I make sure I set it to A4. And then quality and media. There's a little bit of a trick to it. For my vinyl sticker paper, it's best if I just tell the printer that it's plain paper and set the quality to high, and that gives me the best possible result. And there she is, good old Bessie the printer, doing a sterling job there, printing out the sticker sheet. Well done, girl. And now we have to take a little break, and we have to leave it 24 hours before we can do anything else, because it's really important that if you're going to laminate your stickers, you let them outgas for 24 hours. So I'll see you in a bit. So here we are 24 hours later. We've got our sheet of clear laminate and we've got our sticker sheet, and I'm using my laminating machine here on the cold setting, and I'm just going to run it through to about halfway. So when it gets to halfway, I switch it off at the plug and I peel back the backing off my clear laminate and cut off the excess, being careful to hold up the laminate sheet, because if you drop it like I do here, you'll get air bubbles. It wasn't the end of the world. We only really ended up losing the one sticker, but if you don't drop it like I did, it's near enough a foolproof way of cold laminating your stickers without it being riddled with air bubbles. Use my squeegee there to squeeze out the worst of it. I used a little craft knife to pop the bubble on that one and just kept that one for myself. And then I put the sheet through the other side, start lifting the backing off, and just make sure you keep hold of it and keep it nice and taut. It goes through the machine really, really nicely laminating the stickers. And then when it gets to the end, boop, and there you go. And that's my little tip and trick for cold laminating sticker sheets. I always leave it a few hours between laminating the sheet and starting the cutting out process. Call me superstitious, it just seems to be what works for me. So here I've got my standard grit mat, and I've just lined up my sticker sheet, and I'm using my roller to press it firmly down. And we're back on the laptop, and now we're going to cut out our design. So we're back in design space, and it's attached to my Cricut machine, and we're just gonna tell it, yes, you can cut out my design now. So we've loaded up our design onto the mat and we've put it in the machine, and now it's just checking the registration marks so it can scan in where the designs are, match them up with what it's got on the computer, and in a second it'll start cutting them out. On my machine, I found that it's best to set the cutting pressure quite low and do maybe anything upwards of 3 passes to get a nice clean edge around the sticker. As long as you don't unload the mat at the end of each cut, it will cut in the same place each time. So I think for this one, I did about 6 passes to get a nice clean edge around the sticker, because if you're going too gung-ho, you can get it's almost like a toothy sort of serrated edge around the sticker, and that's obviously, it's not very attractive. Sometimes it can't be helped, sometimes the design will just result in that kind of edge, but if you can avoid it, it's best to do so. This is another tricky bit that people might not tell you about when it comes to making stickers, is that getting them off the mat can sometimes be a little bit tricksy. So it's better to be slow and steady. If your design is a bit pointy, like this one is here, you really need to take your time, turn it over, use different angles, use your fingers to hold bits down, because sometimes the sticker can come away from the backing paper, and obviously you don't want that. So there we go, it's coming off. It didn't, on one of them, it didn't quite cut through the backing paper, so there was a bit of an edge left on it, but really that doesn't matter, because the backing paper is going to get thrown away anyway, isn't it? So you can trim off the excess of that and just smooth it down, and it doesn't really make a difference. The main thing is to keep the backing paper on. So bend your cutting mat, work with whatever side lifts away first, and use that to get it off. And there we go, there we are, there's our stickers, look at them. Don't they look good? So yes, those are our stickers. Didn't we do well? This was a really nice project for us to do together today. I've really enjoyed making this video. Yes, so you can buy our wares over at www.folksy.com/shops/HowdysDen, or you can just click the link in the description. As always, if you could like this video, if you could subscribe to the channel, and if you could give us a share, that would be amazing. I'd really like to get this channel growing now that the shop's open, and build a lovely little community for us all here together. We're on Facebook and Instagram as well. Just search for HowdysDen. And I suppose I'm going to have to learn how TikTok works, aren't I? Oh, that'll be fun. Anyway, until next time, brats. Bye.